What if the cameras we set up for security accidentally recorded something from another dimension? It sounds like the plot of a horror movie. But for one office building, this bizarre scenario became a chilling reality. This is the story of the Phantom 7th floor. It all started with a routine security check. A guard, let's call him Mark, was reviewing footage from the overnight shift. Everything was normal: empty hallways, quiet offices, the usual stillness of a building asleep. But then, he noticed something strange on the camera pointed at the main lobby. This camera, positioned to cover the entrance, also captured the reflection in a large pane of glass that overlooked the street. In that reflection, something was wrong. The building only has 6 floors, but in the glass, clear as day, was a reflection of a 7th floor. Mark blinked, rewound the footage, and watched again. There it was, a hallway that shouldn't exist. He initially dismissed it as a trick of the light, a weird reflection from a neighboring building, but curiosity got the better of him. He checked the footage from the previous night, and the night before that. The Phantom 7th floor appeared every single night, at precisely 2:26 a.m. Not a minute sooner, not a minute later. For a fleeting moment, the reflection in the glass would shift, revealing a long, dimly lit corridor. The doors were marked with numbers: 701, 702, set the Cientos Tres. It was undeniably a 7th floor, and just as suddenly as it appeared, it would vanish, the reflection returning to the normal city street outside. Mark reported it to his supervisor, who was equally baffled and a little spooked. They decided to investigate. First, they went outside. They looked at the building from every angle. There was no 7th floor. The roof was flat, exactly as the blueprints showed. They checked the neighboring buildings. Nothing across the street could create such a specific, detailed reflection of an interior hallway. It just wasn't physically possible. Convinced this wasn't an ordinary reflection, the security team decided to set up more cameras. They placed one directly in front of the glass, aimed at the exact spot where the anomaly appeared. They also placed another camera outside, pointing back at the building to see if anything external was causing the phenomenon. They synchronized all the clocks and waited. The next night, at 2:25 a.m., the entire security team was glued to the monitors. The tension in the room was thick. As the clock ticked over to 2:26 a.m., it happened again. On the original camera, the 7th floor flickered into existence in the reflection. But the new camera, the one pointed directly at the glass, showed something even more terrifying. It wasn't a reflection. The glass itself seemed to become a window, a portal. The camera captured the corridor directly, not as a reflected image. It was there. The feed was stable, showing a sterile, empty hallway with a sickly yellow light. The walls were a faded, institutional green, and the air seemed thick with dust. The camera outside, however, showed nothing, just the plain glass facade of a 6-story building. This confirmed their terrifying suspicion. This wasn't a reflection from our world. For that 1 minute, that pane of glass was a window into somewhere else. The team was horrified but also fascinated. They continued to record it every night, documenting the bizarre event. The corridor was always the same. Empty. Silent. Still. They began to notice small details: a faint water stain on the ceiling near room 704. A slight flicker in the overhead light fixture down the hall. It was like watching a static painting. But they couldn't shake the feeling that they were looking into a real place. A place that was just empty. For weeks, the phenomenon continued without change. The 7th floor would appear at 2:26 a.m., stay for about a minute, and then disappear. The security team got used to it, in a strange way. It became their nightly ritual, a shared secret of the graveyard shift. They would gather around the monitors, watch the silent hallway, and then watch it vanish. They started to wonder about the history of the land the building was on. They dug through city archives. Decades ago, a hospital had stood on that very spot. A hospital that had a terrible fire. But records were incomplete, and there was no mention of how many floors it had or any specific tragedies tied to a 7th floor. The lead went cold. The mystery deepened, and a sense of dread began to replace their initial curiosity. What were they looking at? Was it a ghost? An echo of the past? Or was it another dimension? briefly overlapping with our own. The silence of the hallway was becoming more unnerving than if they had seen something moving. It was the stillness of a place that was waiting. Then came the final recording. It was a Tuesday night, just like any other. The team gathered. The clock hit 2:26 a.m. The phantom corridor appeared on screen, the familiar green walls, the flickering light, the silent doors. They watched, expecting the usual minute of nothing, but this time was different. 30 seconds in, their blood ran cold. At the far end of the hall, the door to room 79 began to move. It wasn't a sudden swing. It was a slow, deliberate creak. The door, which had been closed every other night, was opening. Inch by inch, it revealed a pitch-black darkness within the room. No light spilled out, just an impenetrable void. Everyone in the security room held their breath. Their eyes were locked on the monitor, on that slowly opening door. The darkness behind it seemed to absorb the sickly yellow light of the hallway. It was an absolute black, a darkness that felt wrong, unnatural. The door continued to open, wider and wider. The 1-minute mark was approaching. The team was frozen, a mix of terror and morbid fascination rooting them to their seats. What was inside that room? What was about to step out? Just as the door opened to about a 45-degree angle, revealing more of the oppressive blackness within, the image flickered. The clock on the screen showed 2:27 a.m. And just like that, the phantom 7th floor was gone. The reflection in the glass returned to normal, showing the familiar, comforting lights of the city street. The security room erupted in a chaos of shouted questions and panicked chatter. They rewound the footage and watched it again. The door to 709, opening into nothingness. The next night, they waited with a sense of profound dread. But at 2:26 a.m., nothing happened. The reflection in the glass remained a reflection. The 7th floor did not appear. They checked again the following night, and the night after that, it was gone. The window had closed. The phenomenon never occurred again. It was as if whatever was on the other side, whatever was in room 709, knew it was being watched. And by opening that door, it had slammed another one, shut for good. The security company eventually replaced the glass panel, citing a structural defect, though the guards who were there knew the real reason. They didn't want to take the chance of that window ever opening again. The footage was archived, labeled as an unexplained equipment malfunction, but the handful of people who saw it will never forget. They will forever wonder what was in that dark room, and what would have happened if that door had opened all the way. Some mysteries, it seems, are better left unsolved. Thanks for watching. If you have any similar strange stories, share them in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more dives into the unknown. Stay safe out there.